Hi guys! So like a lot of you, I'm sure, BookTube has had a huge influence on what books I've been picking up in the last couple years. So I thought it might be a little bit interesting to see which books BookTube has made me read and if they were worth the hype or not. I found BookTube around 2016 and 2017, so the books that I'm going to mention today are from around that time period when they were getting hyped up. But there are definitely a lot more books that I have read since then because of BookTube, so if you want more videos on this topic, I can definitely make those. But the first book, or entire series I guess, that I can remember I picked up solely because of YouTube was the Shades of Magic trilogy by V.E. Schwab. I'm sure I don't need to go over what this is about. It's still hyped up to this day on BookTube. Everyone loves V.E. Schwab, and especially this trilogy. And I personally felt like it didn't quite live up to the hype, unfortunately. I love the world, I love the four Londons and the different magic. I thought that was so interesting, but I didn't get along with the characters very well. I didn't think they were that well developed, so it was really hard to follow them because they felt like just like single personality character cutouts to me. There are a few exceptions to that. I absolutely love Rye and Alucard, but for the most part it felt a little bit forced to me. And another unpopular opinion that I guess I can add on to this pile is I didn't really like the second book that much. I know a lot of people really love that book. It's their favorite one of the series, but I did not like it. I thought in that one the characters were the most unbelievable of all of the books. So unfortunately it didn't really work for me. I still really enjoyed it and I enjoyed the world, but it definitely wasn't my favorite series. It's honestly been 3 years since I read that, so I don't remember all of my thoughts, but I do have book reviews for them on my blog because that's when I started my book blog. So I think it'd be a little bit interesting if I go back and check what I wrote about those at this point and how I sort of feel about it now after it's been a couple years of sitting with it and not feeling like I had to be positive about very beloved books on BookTube like I probably did at that point. I also read Milady Jaina by Cynthia, Brodi, Ashton, and Jodi Meadows. This was so popular on BookTube when it came out. I haven't really heard much about this series or this book since. It's a YA fantasy retelling sort of Lady Jane of England. It definitely doesn't follow historical events at all, but it was a fun, entertaining book. I do remember being really annoyed at the narrator because they would try to make like humorous comments directly to the reader, and I just thought they were really cringy. So while the story was fun, it wasn't really super deep and I didn't get along with the writing very well, so I don't know if I would say it was really worth the hype. It was a fun, distracting book, I guess, but it's not one of my all-time favorites and I don't really remember what happened very much. Then again, I just have a terrible memory and it's been like 3 years, so that could also be the culprit. I don't regret reading it and I don't know if I would really recommend it to everyone. If you're just looking for something light, sure. If you're looking for something that's really going to be like incredible, amazing, I probably wouldn't steer you to this book. Another BookTube favorite that I read around that time was Illuminae by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. This still gets a lot of hype and I would say it's pretty worth it. I really enjoyed myself while I was reading it. I never really read like a sort of thriller sci-fi like this book, and so I was constantly on the edge of my seat. It is so much tension throughout that book. I was so stressed. And it's told in a really interesting format. It's epistolary, which is not something that I have really ever read before. So I think it was a lot of fun. The characters were a bit on the young YA side for me, but I can look past that. The plot was really engaging, it was fast moving, and I overall really enjoyed it. That being said, I haven't continued the series at all, mainly because I hear a lot of people say that it's basically using the same formula in the second and third books, so it's kind of like rehashing the same story, and that doesn't really appeal to me very much, and it left off in a place where I am totally fine with not continuing the series, and I honestly don't think I will. But I did enjoy Illuminae for what it was, and I would definitely recommend it to people if you haven't picked it up because, again, BookTube loves to talk about this book, so I would be very surprised if you haven't picked it up already. Another book that I remember hearing a ton about in 2017 and I don't quite hear as much about now is The Winter's Curse by Rutkoski. I read the first 2 books in the series and I never finished the third. This is a YA fantasy romance about the daughter of a military general and the slave that she bought. That sounds weird and it kind of is, but at the same time the way it's written kind of makes it not. It's really hard to explain, but a lot of people really liked it on BookTube back in 2017, and so I picked it up and I did enjoy the first book. I thought that the characters were really interesting, the plot was really interesting. There's a lot of angst and tension both between like the romance of the two characters and also just the greater political drama of the story. And I thought it had a really good balance between those two things, being the political drama and the romance. So I did really enjoy it enough to continue into the second book, but for some reason after that I just didn't really feel like picking up the third book. I think I spent too much time away from it, so I wasn't really attached to the characters anymore and I'd sort of forgotten things that happened. And when I eventually did try to pick up the third book again, it just wasn't really working for me. So I think it was probably a win for the time that I was reading the book, but after these couple of years, I don't really feel any attachment to it very much. I know I enjoyed the story. I gave it to my cousin to read. I don't think she ever did, but at this point in time, I don't see myself ever coming back to the finale of the trilogy, so do with that what you will. I think what happened is the angst got a little bit too much for me, and I'm not really someone who likes that much of an angsty romance in general, so I think that just kind of made me drop off the end of the series. Another very popular book that I picked up because of BookTube is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This is a post-apocalyptic book about a traveling group who perform Shakespeare. While that's the very sci-fi premise, I think it's more about the connections between people and how people are tied to each other through unexpected circumstances and in a lot of unexpected ways. While I thought this was a good book, it wasn't really enjoyable for me, just partially because I don't really care for post-apocalyptic books. It's just not really my genre, so it's not going to be one of my favorite books, even though I do really like Shakespeare and I liked that part of this. I also really liked the exploration of the character dynamics and how everything sort of is tied together. But again, it's another book that hasn't really stuck with me through the years and I don't see myself really coming back to it. And that's really no fault of the book. It's just that I personally am not really tied to post-apocalyptic books in general. So I think this is a good recommendation and it would be worth the hype for some people, but just not really particularly for me. And then the last book or series really that I'm going to talk about that BookTube made me read and I am so thankful for is the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. I love this series so much and I wouldn't have picked it up if it wasn't for BookTube, so thank you very much. This was definitely a win. It's a book about a lovable group of misfits that are trying to change the world for the better. The world building is incredible. The magic is so complex and yet so easy to understand, and you can do some just amazing things with it. The character dynamics are so well done. I can't help but love all of these characters, and how they interact with different people is just so believable. And the plot is also really fast-moving, really complex, and really engaging. It's one of my favorite series of all time now, so obviously I love it very much and I'm so thankful that YouTube introduced me to it. So those are just a few of the books that BookTube has made me read, and there are definitely some hits and some misses. In the beginning, I was taking a lot of recommendations just at face value without considering what really my interests were in books and what I actually like to read about. So it was definitely more likely for me to get something that I didn't like so much than something that I really enjoyed. But I think that over time, as I've gotten to know my tastes better and I've not taken recommendations just straight off the bat, then I've been much better about choosing which books I want to read, and I end up with a lot more hits than misses. So again, if you're interested in other books that BookTube has made me pick up in the past, I can definitely do another one of these videos. Just let me know, and I will see you later. Bye.